Hello and welcome to Slow Pit Stop, the international Formula One podcast by fans for fans all around the world. My name's Arafat, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Mohammed. Say hi, Mohammed.
Hello.
Hello. Is my mic too far away? Can you see it? Is this better?
Yeah, I can see it.
Hello. Great.
Do you remember in the olden days when you used that cable that was like this long and you're like, I've got to keep it connected to my laptop?
Yeah.
My daughter has broken every other cable in the house. This is the only one I have left.
But you know what?
It's 6
She's
inches.
old enough now to not break things. But now my son is like on a whole other level of let's break everything.
I haven't met your son yet, but everything I've heard about him sounds like he's just completely destructive.
He's so like all he wants to do is destroy. We were watching Wreck-It Ralph the other day, and my daughter was like, she was Penelope, and my son was Ralph, just wrecking everything.
Amazing. Speaking of wrecking it, Ralph, this was quite a good race. I think a couple people put it in the balls.
Yeah, I think
right?
it was. It's not a classic. I'm not going to be like, oh, I want to watch the highlights of that, or I want to watch that race again.
Yeah.
But it was an enjoyable Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I think so. And I think for us, watching Lewis do well made up for anything else that was going on. Like, that's always fun to watch Lewis.
Even if he'd done badly, even if the result was bad, even if the luck of the safety cars had gone against him. On merit, at speed, he overtook George Russell on the track. And that was worth it. That was all I needed to see.
Oh, even if it only happens one time this year. I told you in our group chat, George Russell, let him get his P3 podiums. The car is not a championship winning car. So I'm not one of these people on the internet that's like, oh, Lewis should have stayed at Mercedes. Because we would have been equally frustrated at Mercedes knowing that it's not a championship winning car. I'm happy he's at a different team.
Yeah.
I don't know for how much longer. Now, you know, it's interesting that the Charles Leclerc fans are all like ganging up to overthrow Franz Tost. What's his last name? Franz.
Yeah. Not Franz Tost. Frederick Vasseur.
Frederick Vasseur. I can't believe I got that wrong.
Yeah.
They all want to overthrow Frederick Vasseur. They think he's a bad team principal. He hasn't delivered a championship-winning car. Whereas the Lewis Hamilton fans are like, we love this guy. Woo, keep him. So we have not hit the breaking point yet.
No. Maybe one day, but not today.
Well, we were very close to it before. When Lewis was mad last week and he was like, should I let him pass too? Should I let Sainz pass? The rest of us were like, yeah, rah, we hate Ferrari. But now we're like, yeah, Ferrari's not bad. It's a good team. I don't know.
Mohammed, should I tell you a bit of news?
Oh, there's so much news in the Formula One world.
I know, but my favorite bit of news. Do you remember Otmar?
Szafnauer.
American. He apparently has funding and backing of a manufacturer and an engine supply to put forward a 12th team in Formula One.
He's going to be the team principal?
Yeah, so he says he wants to do a Toto Wolff and own 30% of the team and be like a co-owner / principal. He's like, I'm ready to put the money in and all of this, that. He's like, Formula One isn't looking for a 12th team right now, and their project is years away from anything. But he said in 5 years from now, if Formula One opens itself up to a 12th team, we will be ready.
They need to make these cars smaller. We don't have room for 24 cars.
Yeah.
We just don't.
But Szafnauer, he said he's got the backing of a car manufacturer, right?
Mm.
And no one can get him to talk about which manufacturer he has the backing of. So I want you to try and guess. Who do you think, which
BMW.
car manufacturer does he have the backing of?
BMW. Return to the
BMW
sport.
got burned in Formula One. I'm not sure they'd want to
come
back, but okay.
Audi's
maybe.
Coming. Mercedes is there.
Yeah.
Lexus is Honda. So all that leaves is BMW.
Lexus is not Honda.
And Lexus is basically Honda.
Lexus is Toyota.
Which is Honda.
Honda is Honda. Any other car manufacturers you think? So it's not going to be anyone in Stellantis group. So Stellantis is like Alfa Romeo, Fiat, Maserati, Dodge, all of those people.
Mm.
My initial guess was, could it be one of the Korean companies like Kia or Hyundai?
But they don't really do racing.
Yeah, but they've got that like Type N thing and they do World Rally Championship. So I think they do racing.
Maybe Mazda? Mazda
win
does
the World
racing.
Rally Championship?
I don't know.
Mazda, maybe. I'm not sure they have the size or resources for an F1 team. But then I was thinking about it, right? Because there's like 8 car companies in the world, right? Shall I read them all out to you? because every car company is on so Stellantis owns like 10 car companies: Hyundai,
Okay.
Ford, Renault, Toyota, BMW, Volkswagen, Geely,
Volkswagen is
Nissan.
Audi. Nissan is
Yeah,
Toyota,
exactly. Volkswagen is
which is
Audi,
Honda.
Lamborghini, Porsche, Skoda, Seat, Cupra, and Bentley, and then finally Mercedes Group. But then in all of that, I was thinking, who did Otmar? What was he the team principal of back in the day?
Alpine.
Yeah,
Alpine.
before that.
Force India.
Yeah, so
Racing
he
Point.
was Aston Martin. He left because of Lawrence, but Force India. So this guy knows Indian connections. So what I'm envisaging, oh God, why can't I
You're
talk?
either going to say
Envision,
Tata or you're going to say Jaguar. Oh God, that's so good. We need another Indian team. I want another Indian
yes.
team.
So like, yeah, they could use like the obvious one is to use the Jaguar brand and
Yeah.
reintroduce Jaguar Formula One. But I think it would be funnier to have Land Rover Racing as a Formula One car.
Wow. You know, on that note, we should have Jeep or Hummer. Some random company. I want Tesla to come into Formula One. I want there to be a Tesla team that just sucks. That's like just so bad.
Yeah, so we could laugh at them.
Yeah. Oh, Tata Racing would be
Jeep
so
is
good.
Stellantis, so Jeep is owned by like Ferrari, Fiat, all those people.
Okay, I've never heard of Stellantis before in my life, but Jeep and Dodge always have dealerships connected, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so Jeep, Dodge, Citroen, Vauxhall,
Are we gonna get like an
Maserati,
American, like
Ferrari.
Chevrolet or something gonna come in? You think?
Yeah, so they're
GM,
all part of
Chevy
General
is
Motors.
GM. Yeah,
Yeah,
forgot
so
about
GM
that.
is coming in as Cadillac.
Yeah,
So the only other
that's
people
right.
I can imagine is
Wow.
Tata Motors as Jaguar Racing. It'll be totally wrong. It will just be like General Motors having a second brand or something.
No, I think Korea is a good bet because their car companies are aggressive now with Hyundai and Kia, and now they've got Genesis, so it's a possibility. But
Yeah, and
you're right; it's more about do they have the funds to run it? You know, I don't know.
yeah. So my thinking is actually, does Honda want to be an engine supplier to Aston Martin and then have its own Formula One team? Again, that's another possibility. But yeah,
That's exciting.
fun.
I want to see 12 cars because it's fun to have more cars
Same.
racing.
Yeah, and it's just, drivers like Valtteri would be on the grid right now.
Yeah.
Daniel Ricciardo would be on the grid right now.
Maybe Seb.
Exactly. So I think the
Which
more
begs
cars,
the
the better.
question, we've played this game like 4 times on this podcast where we get to run a team. Why, if they get to pick any team principal, are they going to Otmar Szafnauer? Why not go to Seb?
Because I think Vettel, he was obviously a good driver. He's a very intelligent and knowledgeable person. I think he's better doing something in the FIA, either like promotion for kids or sustainability or something like that.
Have you seen that Anthony Hamilton is now in the FIA?
Yes. Yeah, doing something for like youth something.
Yes,
whereas I think Otmar is actually a good team principal. He ran Aston Martin well. Mm-hmm. He was stifled by leadership when Lawrence Stroll took over. He was stifled by leadership at Alpine. And I think his idea of, actually, I know what I'm doing if I could just be the boss and not have to answer to anyone. So I think that's why he wants to come in as a co-owner.
Yeah. Oh, we got to talk about Aston and the other teams. Is there more news?
Yeah. No, that was just the big one.
Okay.
But yeah, should we get into Aston Martin? So they came to this race with a big upgrade, had a great qualifying performance, arguably flattered a bit with an aggressive tyre strategy, but then a really bad race. Yeah. Have you seen the video of Alonso slapping himself in the face?
No, that's amazing.
He's like, he goes like that with his helmet and he goes dang, dang, bang.
God, that's so classic.
And he came on the radio and said he was the unluckiest driver in the world.
Sounds accurate. I love Fernando because clearly in his mind, he's still the absolute greatest F1 driver. Everybody else sucks and he's the best. And he's just like limited with such a bad car. And it's like, why can I imagine that he is going to end up finally leaving Aston right before they get past? Like, why do I think that that's going to happen?
100%. But he qualified 5th. I think they always knew they were going to go backwards. And after the first pit stop, they'd move back a bit. But they just got unlucky with the safety cars. And he dropped out the points. He was P11. And I think that's why he was upset because he scored 0 points this year.
Yeah.
All the points for Aston Martin have come from Lance Stroll this year.
Mm-hmm. That's actually insane. That's actually incredible. They have a point-scoring driver, and it's not Alonso.
It's not Alonso.
Stroll is like very peaky. You know, he has his like good moments where he's like really good, And then he has like a run of races where he's just so bad, and everyone's like, "Why is this guy back?" But then he'll like have another run of races where he's so good again, and everyone's like, "Oh, great."
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that guy. Like
I know. I keep thinking, if he didn't have the baggage of being like your dad owns the team, would we be like, yeah, this guy's like a fine midfield driver, like he's no different to like Esteban Ocon, for example.
hmm.
Would
But
we view
Esteban
him the
Ocon
same
isn't
way?
that peaky. No one has ever looked at Ocon and said, "Why is this guy still in the sport?"
Yeah,
Stroll
yeah,
genuinely
yeah,
has
yeah,
bad races sometimes, and we're just like, "What is
yeah,
this guy doing?" And then like
yeah,
he'll turn it around and he'll have 2 or 3 really good races and be like P8, P9, P8, and then we'll be like, "Oh,
yeah,
actually, he's quite good." So I don't know.
yeah.
Let's see. This is the Imola Grand Prix review. We'll come back to this after Abu Dhabi, and we'll be like, um, you know, was Stroll, did he continue his streak of good
We
luck?
should do a
Or
graph of peaks and troughs and see
yeah, yeah.
how
There's
many times
that, and
was
then there
he
was one
above.
other thing I was gonna come back and talk about. I mentioned a couple of episodes ago. I was like, I will come back and talk about this, but I don't remember. So who knows if I remember the
I'm sure
Stroll
it
thing
was
too.
it was important.
Yeah.
Should we get back to Ferrari?
Ooh, we never started
How
talking
do you think
about them.
Ferrari did?
So I think the car is a good race car, and I think we've seen that throughout the season. There's very few races where they've just been stuck and unable to do anything. I think we had a couple. I think Japan. I think Japan was the only one where they were actually just stuck and they couldn't go up or down.
Hmm.
The rest of the season, we've seen them been able to make progress, and we've seen that like China is a good example of a place where like the sprint was very similar to the race, and Lewis was able to capitalize. I think they have a good race car. I don't think they have a good qualifying car, and I think that's where a lot of the frustration is coming in. The question is, what are their future plans? And I said this before. We all wanted Lewis to come in and fix the team, and I think he needs to do that. He needs to fix the team, and that's kind of what we're waiting for. I think somebody needs to fix it on a level. But yeah, they have a good
So
race
my
car.
understanding is they struggled in qualifying because Imola is very curvy and bumpy, and they've got this
Hmm.
rear suspension issue. Remember, in China they ran the car really low, and they got disqualified, so they can't run the car as low as they want, and this is making it more bumpy. Blah blah blah, whatever. Lewis feels this race he was much more comfortable. He was going, he was in such a good mood. Leclerc, meanwhile, is like the entire universe has ended, but Lewis was like so happy.
It was so funny.
Yeah, the contrasting moods. But Ferrari have said they're bringing a rear suspension update mid-season to improve that situation. A lot of people, other teams have openly said, we're not upgrading our cars anymore. We're just focusing on 2026. The car we have is the car we get. And people are like, well, is Ferrari doing the right thing to concentrate resources on this year? Should they not be thinking about next year as well? And Fred Vasseur said, well, actually, the rear suspension is a mechanical component, and mechanical lessons can carry over into the next car. He said, I wouldn't waste time upgrading aerodynamics this year. The only thing we are going to change is the front wing from
Mm.
Barcelona onwards, because every team is obliged to do that because of the new rules coming in from then. But beyond that, we're not going to touch aerodynamics. But the rear suspension work that we do now will help us on the next car. So I'm like, great. And if anything, they'll be able to test it whenever they do bring it in and tweak it and modify it and make it better for next year.
So in this era of the formula, I feel like Ferrari starts the season strong, gets pretty soft in the middle, and then ends the season strong. Um, and we haven't followed that pattern this year. I feel like we've started the
No.
season low, but the
Yeah.
question is then, do we develop upwards, or do we just bring this one update? We see a little jump. Maybe now we're not the fourth fastest team, and then that's it. In which case, again, the question is, what are we trying to gain from the year? I mean, you said before you want Lewis to have 45-ish% of the points, which he's at now. He's at 46%
He's at
of Ferrari's
46, yeah.
points. Which is are we saying that Lewis is hitting our metrics and we're happy with the season so far?
I think it's the thing of, we were talking about in the first few races, communication with his race engineers and people listening to his feedback and all these sort of things. I think this year is about sorting all of that. And hopefully he's got a car next year that can win races. And all the small details, getting the pit stops right, getting the communication right, getting the strategy right, all those things we want to sort out this year so that they're all in place for next year.
So I was gonna
If the car
ask
is
you.
there.
I was about to ask you: is there any other example of a world champion switching teams to a new team and having to learn that new team before winning other championships? And then I realized Lewis is the example. So let me ask you this:
Michael Schumacher.
he didn't win when he. I guess when he moved to
He went
Ferrari.
from Benetton to Ferrari. He had a couple of bad years at Ferrari while the team was developing. Took their time, and then they won everything for a period of time. Let's see,
So
how
what does
many
that
years
take?
was he at?
What does that development phase, that growing pain phase, take before the winning comes?
So Schumacher, when he went to Ferrari, and remember, Schumacher was like testing every day. He was like, the
Which you can't
amount
do
of
anymore.
testing that he could do, you can't do now. There's like a limit. You can do like 4 miles, and then you can't test anymore or something stupid. So many problems, in my opinion, would be solved by being less crazy about testing. But he went to Ferrari in 1996 and didn't start winning till 2000.
He was in Ferrari for 4 years before his first
1,
championship
2,
with them.
3, 4 years. So it was the 5th season he was with the team that he won the championship, and that was
he was
with
younger.
He was younger, but that was with the crazy amount of testing that you were allowed to do back in those days.
So Lewis to Mercedes, he just won because they got the engine regulation right, you think? Or was there an element of
So that's what they told
patience?
him. Yeah. So Lewis, he left McLaren 2012. He had 1 year at Mercedes, and then 2014, when the new formula came in, that's when he was winning.
Okay. I guess I'm trying to find parallels to see like what is this year and next year going to be like. I mean, we do have that new set of engine regulations coming in next year. I guess that's where all of our hope lies. Really, is that there's going to be another big jump for. I do think now. I think it's pretty much proven. If you give Lewis a good car, he can still give you amazing results with that good car. Like, that portion of him isn't gone. He's relying on pure talent to carry himself through, but it's working. And that P12 to P4, I think is a masterclass, because I think that Ferrari was so slow in qualifying, and I think it takes genuinely a very good driver to actually take that result out of it. I think if you take a more mediocre driver, maybe they finish P9, P8. And obviously Lewis did get helped by the safety car, but still it takes a lot, being in the right place, the right time, maximizing on that, capitalizing, and yeah, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad he passed Leclerc as well on merit. He passed George on merit. He passed Kimi on merit. He almost passed Oscar. That close. If the safety car went in.
There'll be people that argue he didn't pass Leclerc on merit because Leclerc
they were
got
on the same
unlucky
tires
with the safety cars. No, they weren't at the end. Leclerc didn't have another set of mediums or whatever it was. So I think Leclerc had a compromised race. But from Lewis's side of the garage, that whole side of the garage was working well together. Strategy, deciding what tires to bring, all of that worked well.
Honestly, the pit stops being good is good. Like, that is a major thing. I said at one point that I'm happy that we're watching this, and I'm no longer stressed that Lewis is not going to make it out of Q2. Since I've said that, he's been knocked out in Q2 twice. So maybe I've just jinxed the pit stop thing as well. We might be seeing some 3-second pit stops coming up now.
We'll see, yeah. Should we chat about Mercedes?
Okay, yeah, if we have to. I hate that team now. Let me throw away all my Mercedes merch.
I just think it was cute that Kimi bought all his school friends.
Yes, that was so nice. I also thought it was so brown of him and his family to cook lasagna for the entire garage. Did you see that?
Yeah.
His mom cooked lasagna, and they brought it in trays for the entire garage.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is something my mom would do. Like, if there was like a home race, right? Like where I live in New York, if there was a race and like my mom knew that the whole team was coming, I could just see her cooking. Like here's an entire pot of biryani or something and bringing it to the... So I thought that was really nice. I'm loving Kimi Antonelli. He's the only part I like about Mercedes.
I've not watched the WhatsApp documentary because
neither have I.
One, it feels like a 45-minute advert to WhatsApp. But yeah, I've just not had time to watch it. But I'm interested in watching it and just seeing what his story is. I
thought it was so funny that the whole documentary is like, he is the future of Mercedes. Like, we've already moved on from George. Has Mercedes also moved on from George?
Have you seen that? There was a clip. There was some clip where, because Toto didn't come to this race because he went to his son's graduation. So he's like, Kimi, it's home race, big pressure, blah, 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 but just do whatever you need to keep your head in the game. Don't answer message if you don't have to. Don't do interview. All of this, blah, blah. He's giving him all this advice over like the video conference. And then George just sat there and George is like, don't you have any words of wisdom for me? And Toto's just like, you are 27. You know what you are doing.
It's so funny. It's so funny how George was like the underdog for 20 seconds and now he's like yesterday's news. They will definitely drop him if Verstappen wants to come to the team. 100%. If
100%.
Verstappen wants to come,
And I
they're gonna
don't
drop
like.
George.
I know we have like this fake rivalry thing going on with Jordan, pretend we don't like him. But I genuinely think he's doing a very good job this year. And it would be like
He's maximizing the
super
car,
unfair
yeah.
to drop him. Yeah. And I can understand from Carlos Sainz's perspective why he thought it was unfair he was being dropped for Lewis. 100% get it. And I think if Russell was dropped for Verstappen, it would be essentially a similar situation. Where, like, you understand why Ferrari would pick Lewis Hamilton over it. You understand why Mercedes would take Verstappen, but it would feel very unfair on the
It's like one of
driver.
those things where it's like, so I mean, I don't know if it's like this in the UK, but so over here, you'll do your residency or your fellowship at a certain hospital. But then when you want to get hired by that hospital as an attending, as a consultant, sometimes the hospital won't take you on, and their reasoning will be like, well, we're just not happy with your training. And it's like, but you train me. Like, what do you mean you're not happy? So I feel like it's like that with George and Carlos, where it's like, we're dropping you for a world champion. You're not a world champion. It's like, you gave me the car. That didn't make me a world champion. Like, if they told George, we're dropping you for a 4-time world champion, don't take it personally. You're just not a 4-time world champion. I'd be like, you gave me the car. I can only do what I have with what I have.
Exactly.
So it's like one of those things.
Speaking of people driving to the best of their car, should we touch on Williams?
So
apparently they've not made this many points in a single race since 2017 when Lance Stroll was on the podium.
I wanted them to come back to that era with the Bottas Lance, when Bottas was also on the podium sometimes. And I'm glad that they are.
I think Felipe, before Bottas, when it was Felipe Massa and Bottas, and they finished P3 in the championship, Williams were really good then.
They finished P3?
They were flattered by the Mercedes engine. Yeah, 2014, I think they finished P3 in the championship.
Wow.
Because the Mercedes engine was so much faster than anyone else.
That's amazing. I love that. Can we have that for Ferrari? You know, let's bring the cheating engine back. Can we bring the cheating engine back?
That'd be good.
Oh, the turntables.
Undisclosed punishment or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think they're doing really good. I think it's hard to tell at what point their luck will run out. I know the beginning of the season always has those high-speed circuits that Williams has always done good at. Actually, Monaco will be a good test because Monaco is not high-speed. They're not going to really be able to push it that much. So I guess we'll see. But I guess by that logic, Imola isn't really high-speed either. So maybe not.
No, Imola is high-speed in the sense of, like, I know it's a narrow track and all of this, but the corners are high-speed corners, which is why McLaren didn't have the advantage over Red Bull. Because where McLaren are good is that go from really, really fast to really, really slow, take like a very, very severe turn, and then the traction coming out of that corner
is so strong.
Going from slow to high speed, McLaren is very, very good. The thing at Monaco is you come into a slow corner and then you go out at a slow speed anyway. So will McLaren's advantage be neutralized there?
Yeah, Monaco's always the great leveler. Yeah. Monaco's always the place where somebody else can steal it. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Charles Leclerc on pole, honestly. You never know. You know, or even Lewis maybe. But Williams, I don't know if, you know, I guess if it makes sense that Imola is a high speed. I know Australia is a high speed. Williams did well there. And so, like, generally they just do well at high speed circuits because that's the philosophy of their car. So I think in Monaco, I think we'll see really the true speed of a lot of these people because they'll just get stuck and they really won't be able to do their best. Monaco and Spain. Spain is the other place.
Should I tell you my crazy prediction for Monaco? Alonso on the podium.
It would be so nice for him. He hasn't been on the podium since the beginning of 2023, I think. So I support it. I hate that. So I was working for this Imola Grand Prix, and I was watching the race in between like patients, which like I had to apologize to them. I'm like, I'm sorry, ma'am. I know you're in a lot of pain. I know you're admitted to hospital, but I need to see Lewis. He's on a run right now. But it's so sad that I'm not working on the weekend. That is the Monaco Grand Prix. Like I wish that could be switched. You know,
so dull.
I wish
like the race is over on Saturday.
Every year we do an episode. Yeah. Every year after Monaco, we do an episode, but we're like, how will we fix Monaco? We do it every year.
Well, they're trying to fix Monaco this year. They're going to impose 2 compulsory pit stops. And a couple of other random things, aren't they? Like you have to use 3 different tire compounds, maybe.
Oh, I did see the technical directive or something like that.
Yeah, they're going to try and fix it. We'll see
if it's not going to work.
Do you know what we should do? Both of us, we should wait for qualifying.
Yeah.
Okay. after qualifying, me and you should make a list of top 10 predictions, okay, for the race.
Last year I didn't watch it because I was working, and you had to come up with the 3 things, and I had to guess what happened. And at the end of it, I was like, "That was fun," and you're like, "No, that was so hard. Nothing happened in this race."
Nothing happened. What we'll do is we'll both write down 10 things that we think are going to happen in the race, and we'll see when we record the episode how many of the things that me and you are the exact same that we've guessed, and how many actually came true as well.
It's gonna be like Oscar's gonna hit a bunny again. Like Mercedes will screw up strategy. Ferrari will somehow combust Charles Leclerc's car. The winner will dive into a pool. I don't know. That's as far as I can get.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else that we need to talk about this race?
Anything else happened this weekend that was like Colapinto's back? Well, I think he's been back. Duhan's gone.
With a bang.
Yeah, Colapinto.
Did you see all this stuff on social media? Like Formula Fakers or Racers or whoever they are?
Yeah, that's been quite a... So here's the thing about Formula Fakers. I never liked that account. It's very stupid. And they put out like rage baiting. They always put out rage baiting content. Like so I've never like, whenever you get their thing, it's always something that's like vaguely misogynistic or racist, or like it's always towing the line, and they do it for like exposure. So I guess this one finally hit the audience they wanted. So for people who don't know, who aren't chronically online like us, there are 2 accounts on the internet that have very similar names. One of them is called Formula Racers, and they put out news, which they have a whole other backstory. We'll talk about Formula Racers a different day. I don't like them either. But then there's a parody account of Formula Racers that uses the same profile picture, very similar handle, and very similar posting style, and they're called Formula Fakers. And they put out fake news the way Formula Racers puts out real news. And it's always like I said, this like edgy stuff that's like designed to make you mad or designed to make you laugh at someone, or it'll be like, something like that. But this time they put something out. It was Jack Doohan's dad, Mick, an Instagram story of him saying like impressive. And it was a picture of Colapinto having crashed out. And that got picked up by people in Argentina.
It wasn't true. It was totally fake.
Yeah, completely fake screenshot that the account make. But they always make fake stuff. And so people in Argentina picked it up, whether it be fans or news stations or someone, they picked it up and they sent out a lot of abuse against Mick Doohan for being just like mean to Franco Colapinto. And then that ended up having a lot of abuse against Jack and Mick, and Jack put a statement out about Formula Fakers, the account, and said like, this account needs to chill. And then Formula Fakers put out a statement and they were like, guys, all we do is post parody. Yeah.
It's on you for being dumb to think it was real.
And then Formula Fakers ended up shutting down their account, or at least briefly. They'll probably be back next weekend. And then Formula Racers got a lot of flack because the accounts look exactly the same, and they've also suspended their account.
God.
The reason I don't like Formula Racers is because only real ones will remember. In 2021, they were actually called F1 Insider, and they would always post this like inside the paddock gossip that was supposed to be true, and it was never true. And after like the 30th time of their gossip not being true, they just shut down and rebranded as Formula Racers and said we're a news account. But I still remember them posting the fake gossip. So to me, they're like what's that guy's name? Jared. You guys don't have him in the UK. He's in the US. If there's any American person listening, they're gonna know who I'm talking about. But there's like this like celebrity gossip guy that always posts. Jared something, I can't remember. But that's who Formula Racers is to me. There'll always be that gossip site that shut down and came back as a news site to rebrand themselves. Yeah. So I don't care about either. I'm happy they're both suspended. Get out of my face.
Great. Wonderful.
Great, wonderful.
On that, Monaco, should we go to bed and let people enjoy the misery that is...
Yes, we will all suffer together in our episode after Monaco. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. We'll see you later. Bye.